Coming up next, a big heavyweight fight between a traditional game design document and Machinations. We're gonna go live to Octagon side now for analysis. Here is Rojogan. Hey, I'm Rojogan. I'm here at Octagon side. Pretend I'm bald. Couldn't afford a bald cap for the bit. I don't understand why this fight is even happening in the first place. This is a complete mismatch. You have on one side of the Octagon a bit of paper. It's just that. It's just a bit of paper that you can write notes on, and then you have a feature-rich, well-designed program that helps game designers design their games. It's going to be a bloodbath. The paper is going to get ripped to shreds in the first 30 seconds. I mean, I don't know what you're supposed to do against the live collaborative editing features that Machinations has. I don't know what you're going to do against the fact that you can run simulations to balance the game's parameters. I mean, Machinations is going to win this fight. A few moments later, Machinations, the new heavyweight king of the design tool world. Give it a try today by clicking the link below. It's Machinations. I'm Rojogan.
Hi, Mom. So I got my ticket home from Europe. I get back on June 6th, but it's a really late flight because that was the cheapest, so it gets in at midnight. But don't worry, I'll get a shuttle from the airport so you don't have to pick me up. Like, really seriously, you don't have to. Okay, so love you. See you soon. Bye.
It's been a quick 9 years since Gone Home arrived on the shelves. Regardless of your thoughts on the walking sim genre it helped spark into life, you can't deny the fact that this game was massively influential to the games industry. If not for introducing a fresh and inventive way of delivering narrative, for how much inspiration and creativity it ignited in the game dev scene. Fulbright reimagined what storytelling could be in the video game space, and Gone Home will be praised for that for years to come. Something that has always gone unnoticed, however, and something that I've always been so curious about, is how weirdly scary the experience of playing this game is. Everyone remembers the gradually unfolding narrative and quite beautiful themes the experience leaves you with, but what I feel like people forget about Gone Home is that it does horror better than most horror games do. When you think about it, horror being at the heart of this game shouldn't really gel and doesn't exactly complement the surprisingly human family story that it tells. So it begs the question, how and why did Fulbright lean into horror so heavily? I think the first thing we have to consider when we talk about this game's fear factor is its setting. For those who don't know or maybe haven't played the game, let's get you up to speed. In Gone Home, you play as a girl named Katie, who's just returned home from traveling around the world. You're returning to no home you've ever known though, because since you've been away, your family has moved into a Victorian mansion that fulfills the roles of both a wholesome family home and a nightmarish labyrinth of strangely connected hallways. The other catch is the fact that when you return, none of your family members are here to greet you. Instead, you have to explore this twisting, creaking, unfamiliar place that may seem full and lived in, but is completely empty. I'm sure at some point you've probably been alone in your home or some other place where there are usually lots of people around. There's a weird tension to being alone in that kind of setting. Like your expectations of turning a corner and seeing someone are offset by an emptiness that's completely alien. That same feeling is here in Gone Home, but its setting actively aids that sense of discomfort. The developers have even admitted that the house itself isn't actually architecturally possible. Its upper floors connect with the maze-like basement, hallways are constantly set at 90-degree angles and are just long enough that your brain has time to anticipate a terrifying figure at the end of one. It's so easy to compare this house with the concept of the Backrooms, or even the setting of a horror book. The Haunting of Hill House is a good example. Hallways and doors in that novel are built at off angles to create unease for its guests. It's almost like the house itself is set against all ideas of homeliness and familiarity. The other ball in play is how the house is lit, or isn't lit, I should say. Light switches are usually your first port of call when you enter any of these rooms, not just because you need to see where you're going, but because they're one of the only comforts this place can provide you with. It'd be pretty easy for me to sit here and say lights off equals scary, but Gone Home is so much better than that. The darkness in this house creates suspense, and when you turn on a light and see nothing but a normal study room waiting to pounce at you, the game is hammering home the subversion of your expectations that it does so well from the off. Not only that, but lighting in this game shares the design lineage used in from BioShock. That is, lighting is used to direct the player's attention to what is important, to create feelings of foreboding or build tension. Fulbright's 2013 classic may feel explorative and non-linear, but it actually is on rails most of the time, and the lighting does a splendid job of directing the player exactly where they need to go. As impressive as the lighting is, sound is equally important. I forgot to mention that the night that you arrive back home from your travels, there's a severe weather warning. Thunder and rain batter the house on every side, making you feel trapped inside this creepy mansion with whatever could be lurking around in it. You can't see anything but rain, trees, and darkness outside the windows, and a storm does nothing but add to that feeling that you are caged in. There's nowhere else to go. But that isn't all. The house may be empty everywhere you look, but you'll never stop questioning your eyes because all around you you'll hear creaks, noises, and the house settling. All of this creates an incredibly tense and hostile atmosphere that means you're constantly on edge while creeping through every corridor of the house. Honestly, it's kind of tough to name more than 5 horror games that have managed to do all of that with just their setting.
This is a severe weather warning.
Of course, it takes a little more than creepy level design to make the player feel uneasy. Narrative hints are pushing you along the entire time, and boy oh boy did Fulbright have fun with them. With the filtered information and clues you get fed in the first half of the game, you are intentionally misled into thinking the story is something much darker than it is. You hear that your sister Sam was judged on her first day at her new school because she lives in the infamous Psycho house. You learn that your father has inherited this house. He's been down on his luck, struggling to get his book accepted by a publisher, failing in his day job of product reviewing. Evidently, he likes a drink, and his wife is most likely cheating on him with someone from work. Adding all this up, you start to put together answers to the central question the game presents you with. Where are your parents? Well, he's obviously gotten drunk, shot your mother and your sister, because what else makes sense in this situation? But wait, there's ghost hunting clues and a Ouija board? Oh my god, this house definitely has ghosts I need to look out for. Gone Home is amazing at harnessing the power of anticipation to intentionally mislead you into thinking there's something sinister at play. The narrative threads are expertly placed and work in perfect harmony with the level design so that you jump to these wild, ominous conclusions. In his talk about designing experiential gaming spaces, Brian Upton talks about the idea of anticipatory and interpretive play. This idea that sometimes the best and most memorable parts of experiencing a game is in the anticipation, the waiting, the preparation before you do the most marketable thing in the game, planning out an approach to a puzzle, observing guards in a stealth situation, spending minutes and minutes planning your next move on the chessboard, or, in the case of more narrative-driven games, interpreting what's going on by picking up clues. Gone Home does all of this to a degree I can't really find a comparison for. I don't often condone intentionally misleading a player because I think there have been one too many examples of that being done in the marketing sense, but Gone Home shows us a great example of how to do that harmlessly to aid the power of narrative without promising things a game can't follow through on. The lesson here then? Well, if more horror games learn to channel the stillness of Gone Home, the anticipatory moments, the expert clue placement, the expressive moments of game design, they could craft so many haunting and genuinely inventive moments. So many horror games I've played since Gone Home released have been so uninventive, following the rule of put this moment in because scary, without a second thought about what purpose it could serve. This game is the opposite of that because it uses horror in meaningful and creative ways. Alright, so we've covered how Gone Home creates its scary gameplay experience and talked about how it can be replicated in other games, but the question still remains, why do this at all? What purpose does all this scaremongering serve? Well, to be honest with you, I wasn't really sure, so I got in touch with Fulbright and asked them the question, and they were kind enough to give me an answer, so thank you to them, but here's what they said. The intent behind the unsettling atmosphere early in the game was to acknowledge what the player's assumption about the setting would be: a dark and stormy night, an empty house, missing persons, and then gradually talk them out of thinking it was a horror experience and into the idea that it was just about a family and their story. In 2013 especially, the idea that a game would just be about people's lives, not zombies or mutants or serial killers, was fairly novel, and the game had to work against it a bit. So there you have it. I can't help but agree. I think Gone Home's horror elements make the whole game so much stronger. In a strange way, you pay attention to Gone Home's narrative way more because of the way it intentionally misleads you into an ominous prediction. I don't know if it's because you're actively looking for the conclusion you jumped to come true, or it's because one of the only respites from the tension is Sam's journal entries. There's nothing scary about any of these voiceovers. They're accompanied by Chris Remo's minimalist and ambient soundtrack, which removes the player from any feeling of danger they have from exploring the house. If these main narrative dollops are your safe haven, you're gonna pay attention to them more. I think you can probably take it a step further as well. I mean, is there potentially a metaphor in the house's foreboding, scary atmosphere that can be linked to the themes of sexuality the game presents? This game, after all, is set in the 90s, when being anything other than heteronormative was still a much scarier thing. In a lot of ways, the big, scary atmosphere that builds in this house and constantly ends up being nothing to be afraid of can very easily be compared to the fear, judgment, and prejudice toward the LGBT community, especially in the 90s. Secondly, Gone Home is just a much more enjoyable experience on the gameplay end because of its horror elements. When you boil it down, this is a stupidly simplistic idea for a game. Explore empty house, find out where family go. If the house isn't scary, you're just gonna be going from room to room examining plastic cups and toothpaste tubes. You wouldn't be having a memorable experience at all. It may not seem like something that should gel together, but combining horror and very human, heartfelt narrative themes makes Gone Home a timeless classic, and one that I hope studios continue to learn from. Thank you so much for watching this! If you liked it, please do give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button and the bell icon so YouTube notifies you whenever we upload next. If you want to keep up with everything we do here, head over and follow us on Instagram, the link is down below. Thanks again so much for watching, and tune in next time.